Good afternoon and welcome to the Ascension Parish Personnel Committee meeting of Tuesday, October the 3rd. Roll call, Mr. Barrick is present, Ms. Fontenot is present, Ms. Stroud is present, Mr. Martin McConnell is absent, Senator. At this time we'll have the invocation. Ms. Fontenot, would you lead us in the invocation and also the pledge, please?
Yes, sir. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this wonderful parish. We thank you for all the people that abide here. We ask your blessings tonight on this parish. We ask you for wisdom, for understanding, for truth to come out in this meeting, Father God, as we serve the people that you've called us to serve. We ask that you bless our soldiers, both men and women that are abroad, those that are here in this country. We ask that they return home safely from war, that they return home to their families in good condition. And we ask that you do that quickly. And we thank you as always in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Agenda item number 3 is the proposed revisions to the mental health ordinance. It was the council meeting, last council meeting we had. Mr. Katz, representing the administration, had brought to the parish via the parish president's report some changes or some discrepancies, at least they thought that they had, dealing with the mental health ordinance. And essentially this committee, is one of its duties is to appoint members naturally to these volunteer committees, but also to deal with anything that would happen to come up. So Roy, we're going to ask you to come on to the mic and go ahead and give us what revisions that the administration is proposing.
Mr. Chairman, Honorable Councilman, and I want to commend the Mental Health Board for being in the audience. Let me just start off, and I don't really have a prepared statement, so if anything needs to be said, I'd like to just get it from the tip. First of all, in my remarks the other night, I had no intention to insult anybody or to show disrespect for anyone. When I have an employee, well, let me back up. These people are volunteered. At one time, they used to get paid for it. And I appreciate, and I'm sure the administration as well as the council appreciates what they're trying to do. So it's no disrespect for any of you people, believe me, irregardless of what it looks like. I had several conversations this past week, and one of them was with Councilman Savoy. I realized that dropping the bomb of a whole new ordinance after talking to him and realizing the work that several people, Ms. Fontenot included, put into this, what I would recommend is that we disregard that totally, take a look at the old ordinance that you passed in October of last year, form a working committee. I'm not trying to cut this meeting short, but there's some things that I think would be better suited if we had a couple of members of the board, the Mental Health Board, a couple of members of the council, and we sit down in a working committee and hash this out. If we can't make amendments to it, I respect that. Now, let me clarify something else. This was done on my part because I was defending an employee that I think was right in what her concerns were. There's some discrepancies. I know in talking to the Mental Health Board that they felt that there were some question areas that they had. And I don't mean to be putting words in your mouth, but I think they had some of the some concerns also. I would like to recommend, I have a copy of, I don't expect any action on this tonight or in this group. I have enough copies here for the Mental Health Board and you four to take a look at it. We made some changes in it. That's just strictly what we think. I would like to get a working committee, if I have a recommendation from me, of 4 or 5 of us, the Mental Health Board, a couple of council people, and myself, so we don't have a quorum of any group that we got to have a public meeting and sit down and hash this out. And I will respect anybody's opinion that they have on this. Whether you want to do it, whether you want to go the other way, it's fine with me. I don't have Bill here to tell me, but I am taking treatment now, so I'm not going to be
Ain't no
that
problem.
emotional. But
We understand,
No, I
Roy.
appreciate the opportunity. Again, if I hurt anybody's feelings, particularly this board of volunteers, I really apologize because that was not my intent, and it wasn't my intent to drop a bomb on anybody.
Right, I
It turned
understand.
out that way. So I appreciate it. I'll hand these out, Mr. Chairman, and you can do, whatever y'all would like to do. I would really like to be excused. We had a death in the family,
Okay.
and
Do you have the changes highlighted,
yes,
Roy,
sir.
so we
Yes,
can
sir.
tell exactly what they
There's some that are
are?
scratched out, and there's some that are highlighted. I think we even have a color copier, so it shows it
Okay.
in yellow where it's highlighted. So that would be my
Okay.
recommendation.
And before you leave,
Yes, sir.
Does any of the committee members have a question of Mrs. Katz?
Would not Mr. Katz.
Well, no,
but,
I just- if
I
you-
would like to know if before he's dismissed.
Well,
Yes,
I mean,
that's fine.
If they need to.
Yeah,
talk.
well,
That's fine.
if you have anybody, Mr. Nick, okay. All right, Roy, why don't you go ahead and pass this out, please?
This is the existing ordinance, just without. That's the ordinance that we just made some changes. That's the ordinance you're operating under now, that we just made some changes that we thought we could make. If you don't agree with it, that's why I'm suggesting the committee. See, I cut it right to the right number. If we'd had one more, the press wouldn't have gotten it. Thank you. If there's any questions that anybody has, like I said, I'd really rather not get into this discussion on this. I would rather see us where we sit down and work this thing out.
Okay.
And then come back to you
Right.
and then go to the council
Right,
with it.
and that's not a problem, Roy. And I know you probably have to leave, but let me give that opportunity, please, right quickly. Roy, you can go ahead and take
Sure.
a seat. And if any of the, I know you guys came here prepared to say something tonight, and we're a committee, so we certainly don't want to not allow you to do that. So I think, Mr. Butler, you wanted to speak because you have an engagement too. So if there's something you need to say or ask or questions, or even ask of this committee, please feel free or make your statement.
Okay. First of all, good evening. According to the ordinance, we had a board meeting, and I brought up a
Give us your full name, Mr. Butler.
Jerry Butler.
Okay, thank you.
I brought up at the board meeting when I very first came on board. I'm very impressed on the job well done as far as going, but I sit back and listen to try and enhance what's going on. And once I got a feel for it, it opened my eyes up. And as I was reading through the ordinance, I noticed one of the ordinance that was given to me, as far as the parish is concerned. This one is October 21st, 2004, from the regular council meeting.
That's the latest one?
From the council, from you all, you guys. And I questioned our director about one of the statements that was in the ordinance, one of the ordinance that was there, and it reads that the director's recommendations for hiring of counselors or other professionals shall be reviewed by the board for their recommendation prior to being submitted to the parish resident for approval. That statement was brought up in the meeting, and the comment I got back was that the board doesn't hire anyone. I said, well, I didn't ask her who
Right.
hired who. I said we should be knowing who's getting the positions or what, or how many people is working, who's getting fired, who's not getting fired. From my understanding, the way it's written in this ordinance here, and I noticed the ordinance that Mr. Cash just passed out is scratched out. I mean,
Well,
you know.
and Mr. Butler, and we appreciate your comments. I think that's what Mr. Katz is asking, that primarily, and this is why we would need a working meeting dealing with the ordinance. If you guys have some suggestions, naturally, we're going to need you guys to get together, come up with some suggestions on that. And I think Mr. Katz has suggested a couple of members be included on this, and actually, this committee would probably set that working committee up. I've heard a couple of comments here dealing with Mr. Roy's suggestion, and I don't think nobody's going to object to that. So that's something that we certainly will adhere to and also take on a recommendation.
Okay.
Yes, sir. That's not a problem.
And I have just two other points.
Yes, sir.
One other point that I was very, very I thought was very, very unprofessional as far as our director is concerned, through an email that was passed on to me. I have it here, right here. Susan Menadol sent Monday, May 22nd, 2006 at 7:27 a.m. to Mr. Roy Katz. They pushed so hard in the meeting to keep their current space that the board began talking about using the Donaldsonville Clinic more often. This is the campaign of Jerry Butler. It's not a viable solution to anything since about 8,000 people in Donaldsonville and 80,000 live on this side of the river. The meeting was really ugly, but the board supported me except for Jerry Butler. I call on you. That statement, I think, was unprofessional at that time. The way I look at this board is not Donaldsonville, for those in that concern. It's about the parish.
Right.
Okay? If it got 2 people in Donaldsonville need mental health services, then hey, it's a parish. I mean, this is my opinion, and yes, I'm from Donaldsonville, don't get me wrong. But I will look after Donaldsonville as far as Gonzales also. And I believe in equal opportunity for everyone. Okay, but when you make a statement like this and it gets back to me, it hurts me and it also hurts the people who I'm trying to help and everybody else is trying to help on the other side of the river. Okay, I never really say nothing about it, but this is one of the main things I'm concerned about. It's our mental health clinic on the other side of the river that's not open 5 days a week, only 2 times a week. Then we get to the point where our director don't even want to come over there anymore. I mean, she made that statement in the meeting. You know, I mean, all the upgrades. If you look at the Gonzales mental health and look at Donaldsonville mental health, our mental health clinic is in the 70s as far as construction-wise. You know, we need to upgrade it. And these are some of the things that we brought to the board. Not just me, but my other board members agreed on it also. This is a parish thing. This is not Gonzales, Donaldsonville. Right. Okay, it's considered a parish, and that's one of the main points I wanted to get across. Okay. And I would like to thank you for the time that you've given me to speak, and hopefully we get all this ironed out as soon as possible.
Okay, Mr. Butler. Thank you, sir. Let me make the statement also. It's okay to air your grievances. We are set up to a situation where the commission does answer to the parish president. I guess that's one thing I wanted to ask you, Mr. Katz. That mic maybe work that too, Roy. Okay. You made the statement a while ago, and it was in the parish president's report. I mean, you reported on it. But are you the administration's contact on this board, on this committee?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Does the parish president have a list of contacts for each committee? In other words, like the Ament River Basin, who's his contact?
I have no idea.
You know? Can you make a note of that? I'd like to know that information. When you made the statement, something about an employee, so I wanted to make sure that you was acting as the contact with the committee, and of course you acting as human resources to understand, but.
Well, with the reorganization, I'll try to answer it a couple of ways. When we first came in, the parish president asked for different directors to attend various board meetings. I was involved with recreation since that was one of my responsibilities, and now we have Ms. Kenshin, she attends that. And I personally like to come to the personnel committee meetings because even though I just listen, but that's just one of the things. One of the things that has to be understood is part of the responsibilities I have is mental health, along with the health unit, recreation, animal shelter. I mean, that's just some of the things that come in it. And I feel to be a good supervisor, you have to listen to your employees, and if you feel there's something going on, you need to look into it. Was it handled correctly? I'm not here to say that. I would not like to drop a bomb on anybody. That's why I'm saying I think the best way to handle this is through the committees. One of the comments he passed, that's been one of the comments I've had, is how can we get more services in Donaldsonville? This has really been a concern of mine. But anyway, that's something that we can work out and we can look at, and I'll be glad to do whatever you can. But I am the contact for this committee.
That's what I needed to know. Ms. Fonda?
This meeting tonight was set up because this was brought to our council, and this should be the working meeting. You know, I know that they didn't, and they've changed since then, but we've got 5 board members that are out here, and myself that has spent a lot of time this week doing something, and we need to clear up some things even before we have a meeting, because, I mean, these board members are sitting out there, they're so unsure about what's going on. And I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce these board members,
Sure.
because I think they're so important. One of the things Mr. Katz did say something in his talk the other night was about the diverse board, you know, about there being a diverse board. We couldn't ask for a more diverse board than we have. We have Ms. Brenda Hodnick. I can't begin to tell you the different qualifications she has. She is a professional in the mental health field. We have Ms. Italia Gautreaux, who's a citizen, and of course mental health boards are supposed to have citizens. That's the whole idea of a board, is to have the citizens that deal with mental health in their families or have an interest in it. We have Mr. Brian Lambert from the Sanamo area. I think it's from Sanamo, right, Brian? Gonzalez, you're from Gonzalez. Brian, who took an interest in this and decided he wanted to join board. We have Ms. Zenobia Baptiste, and we have Mr. Jerry Butler. We made sure we had somebody from Donaldsonville because we wanted to make sure that Donaldsonville was on hand. Before we go any further, it's important because Ms. Hodnick expressed to me that there's a lot that she doesn't know about the ordinance. And I think Ms. Zenobia and Ms. Italia pretty well know a lot, but Mr. Lambert, Mr. Butler, and Ms. Hodnick do not know about the history because they came on board after. So I have prepared a PowerPoint presentation that will give us the history so that we can go back and do the history. And Roy, did you want to say something?
No, I was just going to ask if I could be excused. I'm not trying to get out of the working part of it.
That's fine, Roy.
If y'all come up with an agreement or what y'all want to do, if you want to go in, excuse me. I'm not used to this either. I'm just asking to be excused because of a number of things. I'm really just want to bring it out to where if we can come to some agreements, I would like to see some agreements come. I think it's great that you're doing this with the ordinance and showing them what's going on. I'm not trying to hide anything. I just want to see we can come out with. And Ms. Fontenot, I know the time and effort that you put into this. I really do, because I think it was probably left to you and a little bit on my part to look at some of the stuff that you did. So I appreciate above anything else, and it's just like any other document. I think that it may need some changes and or just some tweaks, and if it doesn't, that's up to you.
Roy, and that's part of the point. I mean, I have the emails that you and I went back
and
forth back there to make sure that you had a very vital part in this.
I understand.
And went to everybody. I mean, I've got emails to all kinds of people in here that I made sure that I included everybody. In fact, let's see here.
While you're looking for that, I just want to remind you that this did come before the council. It was approved, and President Hughes signed it, so it went through all the proper steps to get this done.
Right.
And the other thing is, you know, it's just like the Louisiana Constitution. We voted on 13 amendments. These people thought they had a perfect document when they put it together. We got some more amendments coming in, so I'm not trying to argue with you.
And I understand that, but you also said the other night that, you know, that there was a lot of politics in this. And you used a politic word. I just want to read you an email that I wrote to you September the 17th, 2004 at 1:03 p.m. Roy, will you make sure the qualifications for the director are right? I will put these qualifications. I put that these qualifications be put in your new policy manual. Also, that the salary will be put in the manual. Also, that Human Resources interview with the chairman of the board or the chairman's appointee the applicants for director. The board and the parish president must agree with the final applicant, or the council will decide. That was very clear that I made at that point to you. I'm working diligently to get a good document that gives some authority to parish government while still maintaining the purposes of the board to be a viable influence in the mental health of Ascension Parish citizens. This new copy will be sent to me, will be sent by me to Dr. Jan on the state level for her views before bringing to the council for ratification. My only goal is to make sure that people who need and require these services are protected from all political agendas. So that kind of struck me as a chord, you know, the other day when you used the term political agenda, because I did just the opposite. I did my very best to do that.
I would have to look at my statement of what I said, and again.
Your reply was, I agree. Please don't misunderstand me. I just want to avoid what we have now. I look for all the input and help I can get. Thanks, Roy.
You know, please forgive me, but this is the last thing I have to say. When I was talking to Jerry the other day, it struck me kind of funny that I was looking through all this mental health stuff, and I think it was either 1992 or 1993. The council voted that you couldn't even be a doctor of psychiatry to head the mental health board. You couldn't be a nurse with
That's
2
all
years.
changed. So.
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying that this was just some of the things that I want to stay away from. That, you know, and believe me, I think we're all involved in some input. I would just like to, as I said before, let's take a look at it. You decide what you want to do. Let me know. I'll be available at any time to work with you.
Roy,
And thank you.
Roy, I'm gonna grant your wish. I wish we could work on this a little more, but we will with the board here. Naturally, if they want to bring some more, they're here, and I
Yeah.
want them to have time to talk. We understand you have a death in the family, you need to leave. That's all right. But we were taken back because we thought we did have it worked out, and we were a little surprised, and so that's why we was concerned.
You excuse me. You have to understand. I get a bit emotional. I'm the emotional one in the staff.
But we were surprised that the parish president would even bring it. I mean, you know, with some.
Well, thank y'all very much. I
Okay,
appreciate
Roy.
it.
Ms. Fonda, why don't you, since you do have a PowerPoint, why don't you go ahead and present the PowerPoint?
That would be
for the-
good
for-
because I think that would help them
No
with their
problem.
questions and
You
stuff.
go right ahead. Is that all right, committee? Is that okay?
Roy, Ozzy. No place for politics. My only goal is to make sure that the people who need and require these services are protected from all political agendas. Email to Roy Katz, 91704. I just read that. The concepts of the founders. Government appoints citizens to keep government in the hands of the people, federal, state, and local. All have boards, and that's to keep the citizens involved in their government. Citizen participation and oversight is valued. The power of government is not in the hands of a few. It expands the promise of self-government. The creation of the mental health program by a majority of taxpayers in an election on July 9, 1952, a 2 mil ad valorem, that's a property tax, was approved to establish a mental health program for the Ascension Parish, for the citizens of Ascension Parish. I might stop to add that was one thing that was mentioned the other day. There's only 2 such places, I think, that they had said the other day, which Dr. Jan on the state level, says that we are way ahead of everybody else because of the fact that we have a tax and a program. Because on the state level, they deal with adults, but because of this tax, we deal with children. The creation of the Mental Health Board by resolution or ordinance of the police jury of Ascension Parish on October the 7th, 1952, consisting of 5 members appointed and approved by the police jury to serve without compensation in staggered terms. Those staggered terms were 5-year terms, by the way, electing their own chairman, and it's important that you pay attention to some of this, and I'm going to tell you why in the end. This is the original, electing their own chairman, their own vice chairman, and secretary, holding meetings at least every 3 months with the majority of the members constituting a quorum. The twofold purpose of the board was advocacy, those who speak and write in support of mental health programs, accountability that ensures services provided with local dollars are being used to address the mental health needs of the community. Now we're talking about the original one now. Dr. Jan Grosowski, PhD, Executive Director of the Capital Area Human Service District. This is what she wrote in a letter to Parish President Hughes on August the 4th in 2004. I believe there are ample reasons to continue to support keeping a board, which is in the least provides an advocacy function, but more importantly, fulfills an important function of ensuring that the services provided with local dollars are responsive to the needs of the wider community. This is when he wanted to abolish it. She was one of the main reasons why, when I was researching it, why I knew that we needed to keep the board. The duties of the board. This is under the 1952 ordinance. This is the duties of the board: to receive and disperse all monies from the tax, to make an annual report and special report as advisable to the police jury, to appoint and fix the salary of the director of the program, who shall serve at its pleasure. That was the way the mental health was set up. It's no longer that way now, but that's how it was set up. And in some of my research that I've done around the country, the mental health directors are appointed by the board and serve at the board's pleasure. Now that was how it was around the country, and that's how it was back in 1952. Duties continued: to have authority and power to make and promulgate rules and regulations governing the program, the duties of the director, and any and all other employees of the board. Chairman of the board shall serve as acting director without salary until the director shall be appointed or a vacancy exists. This is important that you pay attention to this particular one. Chairman of the board shall serve as the acting director. 40 years of service. The Mental Health Board served under the above ordinance of October 7, 1952 for 40 years before any changes were made to the ordinance. The politicians take over in 1992. The police jury amends the ordinance and assumes responsibility of the Mental Health Board with 2 identical amendments in the meeting minutes of 319 and 514 of 1992. Duties of the board shall be as follows: to formulate and present to the police jury proposals for the disbursement of monies accruing from the tax voted as set out, to study and make recommendations to the police jury for the mental health and well-being of the parish, and formulate resolutions in planning for the future mental health of the residents of Ascension Parish. At this point, it changed. Now the board is only formulating and presenting proposals for the disbursement of money. But they still have some control and power because they still have a say in how money should be spent. And by that I mean, you know, what's important for the board is to be able to decide if this program's needed without somebody saying, no, we don't want to spend the money on that. Because the mental tax money is to present programs to meet the needs of the people. You know, when you say cut the budget, in a program like this, it's got a tax. When you say cut the budget, you should cut office supplies and, you know, equipment that you buy in, different things, but you don't cut the services. Not in this particular thing, because the people meant it to go for service. That's what it's there for.
Let's stay on task.
And I wanted to make sure that that was there. Members appointed by the parish president, not the police jury. There is hereby created the Ascension Parish Mental Health Board, which shall consist of 5 members to be selected and appointed by the Ascension Parish President and approved by a majority of the Ascension Parish Council, which board shall report to the Parish President. This was 2/23/1995. This is when it started being reported to the Parish President and not to the Council. And that's because under Home Rule Charter, the Council creates and abolishes boards, and then it's turned over to administration under the Parish President. Members paid per diem for attending meetings. Nothing contained in this section shall prevent the Ascension Parish governing authority from paying from mental health funds to the members of the Ascension Parish Board of Mental Health a per diem of not more than the amount allowed by state law for attending meetings of the board. At this time, the police jury decided to pay the board members a $50 per diem. This is important, too, for later. A new ordinance in 11-1202 under the previous administration, the Mental Health Board recommends programs to the parish president. The mental health defines budgetary needs and submit requests to parish president for inclusion in the budget. Changes from submitted budget shall be noted by the parish president to the mental health and to the council. So if the board decided that they wanted to include something and the parish president decided not to, he had to notify them by letter, and he also had to notify the council, because the council then makes the final decision of whether to include it or not include it. Board appoints director by qualifications and sets salary with approval of the parish president. Now, in 202, the board still appoints the director, and they set the qualifications and they set the salary for the parish president. Approves director's recommendation of counselors and professionals for parish president approval. In other words, when the parish president, when the director decided she was going to hire counselors and professionals, this information was run by the board for their recommendation, and then it was given to the parish president for approval. Clarifies how resources will be directed. That was in 202. An amendment of August 5, 2004, that was our board, our council. We broadened the criteria for the Ascension Parish Mental Health Director to include licensed professional counselor, LPC, and deleting BCS board certified in social work. So at the parish president's request that they needed to broaden the criteria in order to hire a mental health director, we made an amendment to that so that would ease their ability to hire a director. The ordinance of October 21st, 2004 changed the name to Ascension Parish Mental Health and Addictive Disorder Advisory Board. The advisory was put in there at the request of the parish administration. Annually select members to serve as officers, hold meetings at least every 2 months, make recommendations for parish president for programs, define budgetary needs to submit to the parish president, office manager to serve as acting director until director is appointed. Now, at this point, I want you to take a look at that. Remember, I told you that the chairman of the board served as the director in the past when the mental health director left. Parish administration had a problem with that. They didn't believe that it should be that way, because they had to go round up somebody to sign the time slips of the other personnel there. I went to extreme lengths to make sure that I included administration, made this favorable to administration, and I did so right here at their request. Now, I'm hearing right now they're upset because we got an office manager to serve as the acting director. This was put in by their request, by myself. So, and with the approval of Dr. Jan Grosowski, I did ask her recommendations after doing this. So I made it plain that instead of the chairman of the board, we now have the office manager, because it's only supposed to be temporary. They're supposed to be looking for a director. This is in case somebody leaves, and they really just need somebody to sign time slips, and since the office manager does that, that is why we did that. The board shall not interfere with daily operations. In the past, the board of directors were constantly at the mental health building, invading the privacy of the counselors and the patients, and this was a problem. So in my ordinance of October 21st, 2004, I put this in my ordinance that the board shall not interfere. They shall not go there on a day-to-day basis and interfere with the operations of the thing. Again, I took administration in mind. The director's recommendation for hiring reviewed by the board prior to submission of the parish president for approval. In the past, the board hired the directors. They did the approving. They hired the directors. Now I've changed it once again to reflect administration. I've given administration more say. The director's recommendation for hiring reviewed by the board. So if they're going to hire somebody, they have to at least go review it by the board and give them some input, and let them have some discussion prior to submission for the parish president approval. I thought this was fair. The duties of the director shall be defined by the board and be a part of the AP manual. Now remember, in the old ordinances, the board defined the duties of the director. Now the duties of the director are set and included in our policy manual. In our policy manual is the criteria for everybody's job description. So we've set a job description and we put it in the policy manual. Remember that they also set the salary. They no longer set the salary. Now the salary is set with the policy manual, just like every other parish employee, which is fair, to be reviewed every 3 years when everybody else's salary is brought up by Human Resource Office. Amendments offered 8/30 of 06 to existing ordinance. Now these are the amendments that he's decided at the last minute they don't want, but these were the amendments last Thursday night that they wanted. And I think it's fair to bring this out so the board has an idea. These amendments are almost identical in substance to those offered in October 2004, except for the following. In January of 06, this ordinance was presented to me by Mr. Katz. It limits the term of the board to 5 years and limits the officers to 2 years. So now administration is going to tell the board, you're only going to elect your officer for 2 years, and you're going to only be on this board for 5 years. That's not administration's call. The board has no responsibility for oversight or supervision of financial management, including the budget, including contract, including grants, expenditures, and receivables. Board may recommend expenditures, but may not commit, approve, or prevent expenditures of the funds. So they can recommend some expenditures, but they can't go and tell administration, you're spending mental health money on something other than mental health under this new ordinance that's amended. And I might add that here they're asking us to make an ordinance to tell these 5 people they can't go get financial information on grants, expenditures, receivables, or anything. Every citizen under the Public Information Act can go get this. And yet they're going to try in this ordinance to prevent these fine people from finding out what's being done in mental health. These are the supervisors for the mental health funds that the people in the parish voted on. Game of hide and seek. Parish documents will not be provided to the board without approval to the director. So this is also in their proposed new ordinance that they canceled tonight at the last minute, because evidently they didn't want this exposed to the public. The parish documents will not be provided to the board without approval of the director. Now, these board members should be able to go to parish government without the director's approval at all and put in a public's request for information and receive it. But they don't want this board asking questions, and they don't want to provide this board with what it needs to do its job. Because one of the things that I've been told over and over again and know for a fact is that if you can't abolish the board, you make the board ineffective. And this is one way you do it. You keep the information from them, and then they can't. Then they're going to just dry up and go away because they're going to be frustrated. Board members may not communicate with the agency staff other than the director or her assignee. I think that's already in the normal ordinance. They know that it's said in my ordinance of 204 that they have to make an appointment and speak to the director and not speak to the staff. So that part's already in there. We took care of that in '04. Renders the board useless. Only outpatient care will be provided. Transportation costs of individuals will be considered part of the mission of the agency. It removes all authority given to the board to fulfill their responsibility to make decisions related to programs offered and oversight of the budget. Administration controls. Why reintroduce this ordinance? Expenditures of surplus from the mental health fund have been questioned by the mental health board. The administration has not been forthcoming with information requested. Grants and programs have been canceled without the approval of the board. This is the Mental Health Substance Abuse Organizational Chart, 11/5/2004, 11 months into this administration. If you look on the, you have the Mental Health Board and the director. They're equal with one another, and everything comes underneath there. If you look in the middle to your right, you're going to see volunteer organizations, Ascension United Coalition. This Ascension United Coalition had grants attached to it. I think at one time there was as many as 34 volunteers attached to it, and they did many things in this parish. That is no longer there. But was the board consulted? No, they were not. They were ignored. Ascension United Coalition. Note that the board of the director owned, I said all of that already. The ACU grant was canceled without any approval notice of the board. The functions of the board. The letter of 7/1/2004 from Dr. Jan Grosowski, PhD, to implement mental health substance abuse program, to readjust services as needs change, to lobby for renewal of property millage, to serve as a check and balance for appropriate expenditures, ability to serve on larger boards that provide a broader range of service with the larger grants for development of more programs. Administration will no longer provide a secretary. At the Mental Health Board meeting of 9/21/06, the board was informed by Human Resource Director that a secretary would no longer be provided for their monthly meetings, which last about 1 hour, maximum 2. Why? This has been provided by all administrations since the Home Rule Charter, but now they will no longer have this. That secretary is very important because she's out of the mental health department, and she knows and understands everything that's going on, and she can point them and lead them to grants and to other things that they may need to serve this community. But she's been pulled. The mental health has a very large amount of money in it. Somebody wants control of it. But there's no reason why mental health cannot afford 2 hours of overtime a month to provide their board with the equipment that they need to function in a correct manner. The National Mental Health Association position. This is from the National Mental Health, which I researched. It is the duty of government agencies, mental health providers, and advocates to accommodate and strengthen such stakeholder participation at every level. Any system using public funds must be publicly accountable for assuring effective stakeholder participation. The stakeholders are out there in the audience tonight. They are the stakeholders in this, and they are the guardians and the keepers of Ascension Parish funds. Solution offered. They said we never bring a solution. I recommend that the Ascension Parish Mental Health Department work with the Mental Health Board to develop programs for the prevention of substance abuse, addictive disorders, and to further the services of the mental health needs of Ascension Parish citizens. I see no reason at all for us to go back and address this ordinance. This ordinance gives administration way too much power as it is, and not enough to the board. And I think that this ordinance has been run through everybody, including administration, and I don't see why we need to go back down it again. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Fontenot. Any comments of committee members at this time? No comments? I think, Ms. Fontenot, you was diligent in your PowerPoint. I hope the board also got some information on that. I am a little disappointed as chair of this committee that we are not able to solve the problem. Certainly I'm not going to blame Mr. Katz since he did have something pressing in his family needed. I am a little disappointed the administration didn't supply somebody else at least to answer some questions. You know, our time is valuable too, and we all work and have jobs, but we certainly appreciate the Mental Health Board coming tonight and showing their volunteerism once again. I do and will allow any other comments from the Mental Health Board naturally. I know you guys had some comments ready to speak, so if you would, I would allow you to come to the mic, just state who you are, and you can share comments with us.
Thank you. My name is Zenobia Baptiste, and I had some things to say, and I want to thank Ms. Fontenot for saying everything that I wanted to say. And my comment is that this board has not done anything wrong. The board has followed the ordinance to a T that was given to us in '04. I would just like to share a letter from our parish president and our representative, Roy Corsair, on behalf of Ascension Parish President Ronnie Hughes and the Louisiana State Representative Roy Corsair. Ascension Parish's training officer for boards and commissioners, the Louisiana State Board of Ethics attorney, Melissa McConnell, is providing ethics trainings to those members appointed to various boards, districts, authorities, committees, and commissions. We are anticipating seeing you at the Ascension Parish Department of Public Works building at 6:00 p.m. on Wednesday, January 25th, 2006 for an ethics training session. The session should not last but about an hour. My comment is that I attended this meeting and several other members of our mental health board, and we were told many things at that meeting. So I'm just saying what I say to you, that when we do sit down to the table, we have to consider the state laws that are giving us the authority that we have. We were told that we were an autonomous board, meaning that we're having self-government functioning independently of other parts. And I know you understand that, because when Ms. Fontenot made statements that the parish council does this and the administration does that, all we do is abide by the rules and regulations that's given us. So I just wanted to make that clear. We've done the research just as Ms. Fontenot has done. When you go to Ascension Parish Library, you can look in the Ascension Parish Code and find everything that you want to find. Some of the things haven't changed, so we need to see to it that those things get straightened out. Some of the problems we were having is when we ask questions about certain things, that's where we got in trouble. When we refused to approve budgets that were way over inflated, that's where we got in trouble. I asked a question in June, at our June meeting, a grant we did not get renewed. What about the monies that we had left? I was told that we had $30,000 left. That was in June. And at the July meeting, I asked, well, what are we going to do with the $30,000? I got no answer, a shrugged shoulder. Then we were told at one of our meetings that the board, the mental health board, didn't own anything. So we just need to know exactly. We know some things, but we want to know exactly just what we're supposed to deal with and what we're not. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Baptiste. Mr. Tagg?
My name is Italia Gautreaux, and I'm chairman of the Mental Health Board. I had prepared a lot of work, put a lot of time into it for tonight. And there is a lot of things that is going on over there that is not right. And if tonight is not the place to discuss it, I won't discuss it here tonight. But I would like an opportunity to sit down and tell you ladies and gentlemen exactly what's going on. Now, I received a phone call from Miss Susan Menendorf September the 27th, 2006 at 8:27. There has been 14 mental health counselors dismissed, removed, or something in the last 2 years. That's terrible for our children. It's terrible for our community. She asked that we call an executive session to discuss this. I need to know if that's legal underneath the Sunshine Law, because the people won't be there to defend themselves if it's in executive session. This board had been asking and asking, how many employees are we hiring? What's going on? Truth has never been told, and I got proof of it over there. So, do we go to legal and ask them if we go to executive session? How do we handle this problem?
Ms. Italia, you have one of the best legal minds that deals with public entities in the parish. That is your attorney, and that's Mr. Jeff Diaz.
I do.
He would be the person in anything dealing with those situations. That is your counsel. That's who you counsel.
So
with.
I have permission to go.
Yeah, absolutely,
Thank you.
absolutely. He is the attorney for the mental health.
And I received a letter from the parish president on September the 25th, 2006. He wants written statements and documents of what this board does. Does my minutes and the tapes of my meetings not tell him what's going on?
Yes.
Yes. All those minutes and your tapes are public records. You guys, as I know it, do not deal with sensitive information. If you do, that is behind
We go
closed
into
doors,
executive
which is
session,
not
yes, sir.
public. But you are a commission or a board just like any other board, and those records are public information.
Well, the suggestions that this board has and the things we asked to do and our coalition grant, which we had no idea that was not going to be reapplied for. And I have a huge stack of information of how important that was to prevention. The new administration, parish president and have you, are not interested in prevention. They're only interested in treatment. Well, my personal thing is prevention.
Right.
And if that is not what we're here for, I'm of no use when it comes to telling those people what to do, how to do it, how to treat a patient, all that. That's none of my
That's not
business.
your job. That's correct.
So the tapes of the meeting will also show where this board has tried to get involved. The coalition grant that that was not applied for, we had 3 people we pay in to do grants in our office, and they didn't have time to come to this board and say they weren't going to do it. The information is in the minutes of the meeting as to why it wasn't done, but this board had no idea.
Right.
And that was my pet peeve, so
Right.
maybe I'm a little bit partial.
There are some answers to your questions, and Mr. Diaz could help you. Also, I'll be glad to sit down with you, Mr. Talia, and pursue some information from administration.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Thank you. Any other members would like to make any kind of statements? Okay, any comments from the committee? Yes, Ms. Stroud.
Yes, I'd just like to agree with Councilwoman Fontenot. I've always been told if it's not broken, why fix it? And to this point, I wasn't here in 2004, but it doesn't seem as if the current ordinance is broken or not working. It just appears as if certain people aren't following what it says. So my recommendation, even though it's only going to go for this week, would be to leave the ordinance as is. There's no
Motion by Ms. Stroud that we leave the ordinance as is. Second by Mr. Barry.
And Mr. Valentine, if you don't mind, a comment on that.
Discussion.
I was willing to go along with Mr. Catt's recommendation before I reviewed some of the changes. And to me, the changes are all about power and probably the money, because the mental health is fairly wealthy. And it would behoove the administration to be able to get their hands on some of that money
as far as providing other services. Well, this tax provides services to mental health people, and it's funded by a tax that the people voted on for mental health, and I don't feel like we should be squandering that money. With certain people have squandered for years in the drainage board when we pay the tax, and I don't think it needs to happen for mental health. So after looking at some of the revisions, it's just about giving more power where I think it's not needed, because some of this money won't be used on mental health, be used for other services. So I think it needs to stay the same. Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Ms. Fontenot.
I just wanted to say that, you know, I was very disappointed when I spoke to our new grants director, Mr. Roy Keller, Paul Keller, I'm sorry. When I met with him outside of the council one night, and he told me that he had let the coalition grant go by because it was too much trouble. And when I asked about why, you know, did he talk to the board about it, and he blew them off, you know, basically they were nothing or whatever, and that he didn't feel like he needed to go to them. And I scolded him because I told him that we chose not to abolish the board, and that we had appointed the members, and they were very qualified. And so I'm wondering where he got the idea and the attitude toward the board, since he had never met with them. But I don't know what we need to do as a council to direct administration to have the grants writers, you know, coincide with the board so that they can apply. From what I understand, and I don't know because I don't have all the information on the coalition grant, but in talking to Vivian Wilkerson, who did part of it when she was with the Youth Council, it was my understanding that it was a $150,000 in-kind match from the parish, and that she had to spend, with Carla Cormier, who was the grants writer at that time, hours documenting the hours of the volunteers and stuff. So I cannot understand why this administration would allow a grant that provided preventive measures and preventive services to our teens to just go away, not consult with the board, you know, and just disappear when it was in kind, when they had volunteer, when they had people willing to work and to work toward prevention. And especially the people like the Youth Council, because the Youth Council people went out and recruited other youth, which kind of helped them get into leadership positions and made them part of the community and aware of the different things that we were trying to accomplish here. And I think our young people need to be mentored up the ladder so that when they get to be a certain age and they can run for office or they can participate in our community, that they would have the right guidelines. So I was very disappointed with that. And since all of this was not our doing to bring it here tonight, but we can see that this board has some serious problems, and it's not with the ordinance. It's with an administration that will not work with them. And, you know, I found it very funny, but in going through my stuff, I found an ordinance that Ricky Babin had done when we were back going through the ordinances and stuff, and he had drawn a draft evidently for administration while I was working on one for this council, and I took the 52 and the 202 one and combined it with Dr. Jan and other things to come up with it. But this is what, I wanted to read this because this is what he had as part of his ordinance. And I'm wondering if maybe we ought to not just do an ordinance completely to do this. This is in Ricky Babin's ordinance in July of '04. It said parish support was the title above it, and it was at the latter end of the ordinance, and it says, the Ascension Parish Administration shall supply the Ascension Parish Mental Health and Addictive Disorders Advisory Board a place to meet, preferable at the mental health office if such facility is available, and such administrative support as is reasonable to fulfill this function, including secretarial help for record keeping, minute preparation, report preparation, agenda preparation, and other clerical duties. The parish shall supply the board with reasonable computer access for word processing and document preparation, and reasonable office supplies and storage. Additionally, the administration shall work directly with the board to provide funding for new services programs through assistance with parish grants, personnel, and any documents the board deems necessary to fulfill its mission. I thought this was very enlightening when I saw this coming from our attorney in a document that he had prepared. It wasn't in any of the other ones, but evidently it wasn't needed, because in the past, the old ordinances, all the old ordinances, the parish administration provided all these things. You didn't need a law. You know, we have laws this thick. Why do we have so many laws? Because people won't do right. So then you make a law to make people do right. Then a lot of times they still don't do right. Go down the highway when somebody's speeding at 90 miles an hour in a 70-mile zone till they get caught and fined. They continue to do what they're doing. And so I just brought this out because I thought that it was very prudent of our parish attorney to have included this. And since we are having problems with, and have had problems with this administration with boards and supplying of certain people and things to this board, I thought maybe that in the future we could look at maybe introducing an ordinance that would insist that they give full parish support when the council makes a board.
And that, well, the parish president is the administrator, and he overlooks the boards, and we are the legislative body. If we so see fit to do that, we can. Ms. Stroud, you had a comment.
I was just going to make one additional comment that Ascension Parish Mental Health and Addictive Disorders, both the board and the mental health office is very important. If you look in the news lately, everything is centered around violence. We're talking about in Donaldsonville and all of Ascension Parish. So prevention is very important. Intervention is very important. So I would just challenge you guys to keep doing the job that you're doing and to assist the citizens of Ascension Parish by any means necessary. Thank you.
Okay, we do have a motion in a second. Do I hear any objections? Okay, motion, Senator, make sure you note that this committee feels that there's no recommendation to change the mental health ordinance per se. I will discuss that decision with the parish president and come back with y'all. Ms. Fonto, did you have something else?
I just wanted to say that you know, oftentimes we get criticized for going to some of these conventions, but in the 205 convention that I went to in Washington, D.C., I made it a point to go to one of the biggest committee meetings that they were having, and it was on meth. The national government is really, really concerned about meth use in the United States. And I received this. I'm sure that all the other councilmen received it too, the county news. There's at least 3 articles in the county news on mental health. One of them is that the Justice Department study finds huge increases of mental illness in jails. And so one of the things that they're wanting to do is to do something that I've been trying to work really hard on, and that's to get some sort of facility that rather than send young people, and I'm talking young people, 18, 17, 18, into the jail situation, which is what they're saying right now doesn't work, and the Justice Department is working on it, that we would try to work toward getting some sort of place where they could go, own up to the judges would sentence them there, where they could go work in the community, and of course if they bust a drug test or whatever, then the alternative is straight to jail. Some sort of tough love a place that they could go, because our jail is crowded right now. Our sheriff is trying to put some new beds in, and I'm afraid that even with the new beds that he's putting in, he's still going to run into overcrowding. And so we need to find a way to help him relieve some of that, and this could be in with him, you know. So I was just wanting to bring that that out, and it did say also Oklahoma Mental Health Court provides treatment, not jail time. So this is a big important thing with the police jurors and the councilmen across the country.
Thank you, Ms. Fonto, for that information. And I would also want to commend the Mental Health Board for your volunteerism. and also state for the public's benefit that this is not out of the ordinary. We have a tourist tax in this parish, and we have a tourist commission, volunteerism. We have a library tax in this parish, and we have a library board, volunteerism. So naturally, yeah. So which we have is the mental health board, and we have a tax, and we also have a citizen group that overlooks the workings of that. So certainly, in my opinion, it certainly isn't out of line. Any other comments? Okay. Agenda item number 4 is old business and new business. Any old business? Any new business?
Motion adjourned, Mr. Chairman.
Before you adjourn, I will say direct sentiment. Next time we have a council member, we have been taking the new business and old business all sentiment. Let's not include that anymore because that's really not an agenda item. Motion by Mr. Barrett
Second.
to adjourn, second by Ms. Stroud. Meeting, any objection? Meeting stands adjourned. Thank you so much.